Hello again. This is Introduction to HTML, and I'm doing this tutorial on HTML for beginners. If you're a beginner and you want to venture into web design, then you need to start with HTML. HTML is a hypertext markup language, as it stands HTML. So I'm doing this tutorial on basics on HTML, and let me introduce this now. HTML, and from HTML we move to CSS and JS. HTML now, that is the component required now to build a car. Then CSS now is to paint that car. Then the JS, you give the engine to make the car now move or react. Now HTML, you need CSS to build or to paint the car. Now in web context, we have HTML contact here and CSS, and then later on you need JS to make it interactive, to be able now that web page to be able now to interact with the various people, various things on this now. But for this case, we are going to focus on HTML, and later on CSS, and we shall also introduce JS later on. Now let me introduce HTML tags. HTML tags, how to use HTML tag. Let me do an example here. Let me type, I've opened my Visual Studio program, and I already have HTML file there. Let me type Suri, the base coder here, save it, and I will open a browser to see how is it going to be displayed on a browser. Now if I refresh my browser, this is how it looks like. Smaller text, smaller heading text like this one. But now I need to introduce a tag and see how is it going to look like. Let me introduce HTML tag to that heading. Now I'll give heading 1. Now you'll open an open tag, heading 1, then close, and then you need to have a closing tag, which you'll have to use / to close it. Now let me put this content inside these tags. If I put this content inside the tag, that is heading 1, and save, and later on refresh this page on a browser, this is the results. It's going to display something bold, something at least bigger, something like something bold, and something very visible. So the text will be visible and will be a little bit big because it is a heading 1. If you want to make another text and you want it to be a little smaller than the heading, the one in heading 1, you will have to introduce another tag, which is heading 2. You can still introduce heading 3 if you want the text to look smaller than the other text or headings. You introduce heading 3 tag. So I want to make this second heading to look a little more smaller than the main heading. So if you want to do that, you introduce heading 2 tag, then you save, you refresh the page. Now when you look at the second text or the second heading, is a bit smaller than the heading 1. This is how you can use tags to be able to achieve this kind of heading or these sizes of heading. So you can use heading 1, heading 2 is a bit smaller, and heading 3 is now the smallest. you can still do this using HTML tags. So this video is for beginners. If you're a beginner in HTML or in web design, you need to learn HTML, which is the basic one. So you need to understand the basic concept of HTML, that is hypertext markup language. Then after you have improved on this one, you later on move to CSS, which is the painting. You need now to paint or to make now HTML to look more attractive. So I have worked on HTML tag, on heading tags. Now here you can see that's how it is displayed. I want to move to, let's have this example. Humans have reached Mars. That is the heading tag, that heading 1, and we have heading 2, and now we introduce paragraph tag, which you use P, which is in tags. Now you see you have a heading. The heading is bigger, the second was a little big, a little small, and then we have the paragraph. So for heading 1, we introduce for first heading, we introduce heading 1 because that is the text that you want it to look at the main title. So the first title or the first heading should be bigger. Now you introduce heading 1. So you're going to use this tag, heading 1. Now you see the second one, we are introducing the heading 3, which is smaller than the first heading. So I'll introduce heading 3, then I will type the text. Like that. Ready, landed on. Now, after typing those heading 1 and heading 3, I'll have to introduce a paragraph. That's why you introduce a tag P in tag like that. Then you type a paragraph. That's how you introduce a paragraph. Then you save. After saving, you open a browser to see if it is going to look like the one we have. So we have used heading 1, heading 3 tag, and now a paragraph which we have introduced. Let's refresh and see if you're going to have a similar thing here. Okay. If I refresh here, you see we have heading, have a main heading there, which is heading 1 tag, and we have the second one which looks a little bit smaller, and we have now a paragraph. That's how exactly you can introduce these tags if you want to achieve something like this. Okay, let's move to the next, which is the image tag. Image tag. How do you introduce image tag? Like you want to have an image in this paragraph after heading 3. How are we going to do this? Let me show you how to introduce image tag. So introduce a tag, then we type img, then we enter img search, CRH, that means search. Then it has an attribute here. You have to introduce an attribute. For example, I have images here. on this file I have here, I have images. So you'll type images, then you'll bring a slash, which means it's a closing tag on its own. Now you introduce image, you pick image that you have. Then after picking an image, you close that tag like that. So after search, you introduce the attribute that is images slash. Now introduce the image. So my images, I have it on the other side, so it's already there. Let's see how this is going to work out if you've introduced this image tag. Let me save and refresh the browser. If I refresh, boom, now you see we have the image, but I need to make this image fit the entire page and be responsive. How am I going to do that? I'm going to introduce internal CSS, which is not right here, but you can do it. I'm just doing it. If you do it, you look like you're a hacker in this, but it's not the right thing to do. So if you want to make that image fit the entire page and be responsive, you introduce style, then with it you give it a 100% like that. So you make it with it 100%. This is how you introduce internal CSS, of which is not the right way to do it, but introduce it and refresh. Boom, you see the image now is fitting. It has fit. Now you see it's responsive. It looks nice. That's how the image is. We shall look at it later when we introduce style CSS. When we introduce style CSS, we shall look at it, but at this level we don't care. We have introduced style CSS to achieve this, but this is done better on style CSS. Now this is how to have an image in your web page. This is the image tag you need to use to achieve this. Now let's focus on button tag. On most web pages you have seen buttons, and I'm going to show you how to introduce buttons on a web page. So let me introduce button. For example, I will type button, then I will close the other button. So I'm going to try to introduce button tag here. Let me open a button tag like that. Type button. When you close, you'll have, so it will look like this. Then in between you are going to type anything that you like. For example, I'm going to type sign up here. Then let me refresh to see if we are going to achieve that. If I save, then refresh my browser, we are going to have, boom, we have a button here. Though it's not interactive, it is useless at this level, but when you introduce JavaScript later on, this one can be made interactive by the aid of JavaScript language. So at this level, that's how you can introduce a button tag, or have a button on a web page using button tag. Now we have a challenge here. Let's see if you can be able to achieve here. Welcome, you have been granted to access the platform. Please create an account. Then we have a button down there, sign up. Now Let's see if we can achieve this. Now, welcome is the main heading. We are going to introduce heading 1 tag, because this is the main heading. Heading 1 tag, then we type welcome. Then the second one is a paragraph. You have been granted access to the account. This one is a paragraph, so you're going to introduce paragraph tag like that. Then we type the statement: you have been granted access to the account. Like that. Then down here I've already introduced a button tag. So let me refresh this. If now you're going to refresh this, you going to, let's see, let me open a browser, then refresh. Boom, welcome, you've been granted access to this platform. Then sign up button is down there. So this is how exactly you can achieve. You have the heading tag, heading 1, then the second one is the paragraph. Introduce the paragraph tag, then a button tag down there. Then when you refresh, you save and refresh your web page. This is how you're going to achieve this particular challenge. So if you're a beginner and do more practice on this one, you are good to go. Now let's focus on input tag. Input tag enables us to have contact, address. You can have contact on a web page, you can have an address on a web page. This is how we are going to use input to enable us to achieve such. So if you looked at web pages, you'll find we have contact, we have address. This is done by the aid of input tag. I need to have I need to create this here where you can sign up, where you can enter your password, you can enter your username. And now let me introduce input tag, then type input, then I'm going to introduce type attribute. Type attribute, let me type text. In type attribute, I'm typing text, and I will have to save it to see. Boom. Now you see, this is where you can enter your text, then sign up. But I will have to introduce placeholder attribute so that you know what you need to enter so that you sign up. But at this point, you can enter simply a text. And now I will introduce placeholder here. Placeholder attribute, I will type enter your username. Enter your username. I will also introduce another input tag with an attribute. Password, and a placeholder attribute should be enter your password. Then you have to close. save and refresh. Let's see if you're going to achieve this. Now you see, boom, you can enter your username here, your password here, then sign up. This is how you can create a form, a contact list form, address form using input tags. So this one is achievable by the aid of input tags. So if you're a beginner and you know how to create a form, contact form, this is how you can achieve it by the aid of input tag. Now we have this one, choose file. Now you need to upload maybe file on your web page. Let's see, we are going to use input tags still to introduce if you introduce file. If you want to upload file on your web page, you're going to type then input, then type attribute, you're going to type file, like this one. Let me have it here. Type file, then after typing file you save. So if you want to upload files on your web page, you can still use input tags. Then let me refresh like that. Boom, we have file here. Choose file. If you click on choose file, you can upload any image or any file you need. Let me click on it and see. When you click on this button here on choose file like that, you can still be able to upload any file, anything